Anxiety isn't a weakness. Living with it, turning up and doing things with anxiety takes a strength most will never know. Today's episode, episode 6, titled Anxious, from track 4 of the Story of Us album by Finding Us, which is us, is on that exact thing, anxiety. That is going to be the nitty gritty of what we get into. Got a lot to talk about with that, specifically my wife.
Yep.
So get ready for that. Anxiety is obviously a very big thing right now in our country. And it's been since the quarantine. Everybody's anxiety has come out. So this is a great topic, I think, to talk about. Glad we did this song. And that's what we're going to get into on episode 6 of Finding Us, the podcast.
Stay tuned.
Welcome, Finding Us, the podcast.
Hello, everyone.
Episode 6, as we said. It's been a couple weeks.
Yeah.
We took a couple weeks off from the podcast, which we don't like to do. We want to do one a week, but sometimes life happens.
Yep.
So tell them what you've been up to over the last couple of weeks.
Well, we took a trip to the beach.
Yeah.
So
Look how tan we are.
I know, right?
If you're just listening to audio, we're really tan.
Hop on
Imagine
video.
us very tan, and that's us. I'm peeling a little bit, but it's all good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so we went to the beach, which is my favorite place. So that was really fantastic. We went with my family. So it was fun to have a house right on the beach. Mm-hmm. And 10 steps from the beach, and we had our own hot tub, and it was so lovely.
Yeah, we got hooked up by a friend of your mom's, whose place it was.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Beautiful place. And it was so fun just to be on the water. And we did a lot of fishing, actually, that was really fun too.
Yeah. Fun and not fun. We'll talk about that more.
What have you been up to?
Oh, well, I went to the beach with some hot girl I know.
Oh.
So that was fun.
Cool.
Yeah. Just, it's her, guys. Just so y'all know, I'm talking about my wife. I don't want, people are like, wait a second, what? What kind of marriage do they have? I'm just kidding.
Not that one.
Not that one. I went to the beach with you and your family, and that was so needed. I think we talked on episodes before how badly we were wanting to travel and just get out and, not necessarily go to Europe or anything, but just go to a beach.
Get out of the dang house.
Because usually we're like every month or two, we're like, it's time to leave.
Yep.
Go somewhere, just
going?
somewhere close by for a weekend, mountains, beach, somewhere, just to get away, take a break.
Yeah.
It's very important. And so it had been longer than usual because of the quarantine stuff and us not being able to go anywhere.
Like months.
Yeah.
Like
so
Christmas.
We were dying. So as soon as we got the opportunity to go to the beach, we were like canceling everything I had planned.
Yep.
Let's go.
Yep. And with that said, I'm wanting to travel again. My birthday is in like less than a month. So I'm like, you want to go to Rome? Anyways.
Yeah. She's like, want to go to Rome. I'm like, we could get stuck over there and never come back. She's like, that sounds good. We may not do a podcast for a while, but we
can do one in Rome. How fun would that be?
Maybe.
Anywho.
The beach was awesome. Love the beach. Professionally speaking, been very busy since I got back from the beach. The pros and cons of taking a trip and a vacation is it's great. You get a break, refresh, get refueled to come back and hit it hard again.
Right.
However, when you come back, when you miss a week, you're way behind on a lot of stuff and you have to catch up. And so it just requires a lot more work. So that happened in the form of Anthem Lights. We're recording a project right now, which I don't think we've announced, so I'm not going to talk about it. We're recording a project right now that we were going to do the week I went to the beach. So we ended up just cramming it all into that week. And so 4 of the 5 days, it was all Anthem Lights dedicated, which is why we didn't do a podcast that week either. Yeah, the following week.
Yeah.
But cray. Tomorrow, Fallon and I, this girl and I, are shooting 5 videos, I think. Yeah. We're going to be shooting the rest of the album.
It's going to be exhausting.
What songs are those? This
so
one,
many.
Anxious, is one of them.
I'm very excited about that.
Into Me You See. Don't feel like fighting. Yeah,
Keeping
which we've done an episode on. Keeping Score.
And I Won't Give Up.
I Won't Give Up. We're shooting all those.
Yeah.
Tomorrow. So we've got a lot of work to do tomorrow.
Yes.
Video shoots are exhausting.
They are. Fun and exhausting. It's both.
Yeah. How's your studies going?
It's going.
Every week we're like, what are you up to studying?
Yeah. I feel like I got back from the beach because I have that like pre-vacation and post-vacation. Like I just cannot do anything. I'm not driven. Like I want to just spend like days packing and shopping and planning. And then I get back and I'm like, oh my God, I need to rest from like traveling and vacation just for a couple days, or I got to get things back in order. And so anyways, when we got back, I really hit it hard and I've been studying a lot, and it's time to set a date to take my exams.
Ooh.
And
for those that don't know, my wife is on her way to becoming a licensed, hold up.
Oh, wow.
Family.
No.
Nope. Go ahead.
This is sad.
I know it.
Marriage and family therapist.
I lost the word marriage. For some reason, the word marriage left my brain. I was like, it's a common word. What?
It's what we are. What we talk about. You're funny. Yeah. So I'm on my way. And with that said, it causes so much anxiety, which is what we're talking about today.
What doesn't cause anxiety? Am I right?
So much anxiety around setting a date and taking the exams. I'm not a good test taker. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. So,
Anywho, so it's summertime.
It is summertime.
It's finally felt like summer.
Yeah.
Every time I go outside, it's hot and I love it. I'm just like, oh.
We're in Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah. Well, really Franklin, but for those of you who don't know. It
finally stopped raining for like the last 3 days, so that was nice.
Yeah.
I always get excited about summer until it gets like into the heart of summer and I need to do things outside in the middle of the day.
It's like 100 degrees.
And then I want to die.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I hate summer.
Yeah.
So, you can't win with me when it comes to the weather. I'm too big. I grew up in Florida. I should be more used to the summer heat. But, I haven't been there in like, how long has it been? 15 years? 12? Whatever? Since I've lived in Florida. I moved when I was a senior in high school. I'm 33 now.
It's a long time.
It's a long time. So I'm not, used to that heat anymore.
Yeah.
Really, in Florida,
thing.
It's the humidity. It's
You're
just
not conditioned.
You go to the mailbox in the middle of the night and you're full of sweat.
Yeah.
Oh, no, thank you. Anyways.
So it's summer. June and July always like signify like summer for me. And my birthday is July 1st. And so that's like in the heart of summer. And I love being a summer birthday baby. It's just so fun.
Summer birthday baby.
Which, I mean, I'll just go ahead and talk about what some of my favorite activities are.
Go ahead. Tell them.
Because
what do you like to do in summer?
I'm a water baby. Like, I love water.
That is such a weird term.
I know.
I immediately just pictured like you were born in a tub and you were a water baby. I know, but I just pictured that for some reason, just water baby. I pictured that scene, water. Which is disturbing in my head. So moving on.
I love water. I've always liked to swim. I've always loved the sun. So like probably like my top things are of course all outdoors. Like I love swimming. I love soaking up the sun. Like there's something about sun on my skin. It's just amazing. I love doing cookouts, especially with friends and family. I love cooking. I love eating a good meal with friends and family and like being social. Like it's just, it fills my cup. And lastly, this is kind of newer, but I really like hiking and canoeing. We got a canoe last year. I'm sorry. It's a double kayak. I love it. It's just so fun. What are some things that you like to do in summer?
Well, it changes summer by summer. Just like all my hobbies do.
Because you're an Enneagram 7.
Yeah, I know. I can't stick to one thing. You should see my garage, guys. There's so much stuff in there because of my hobbies.
It's a crap show.
I'm just like, I need to throw this stuff out. But then I'm like, but
But
next month I'm going to want to do it again. So I just got into fishing, which is fun. I've always kind of had fishing, in the back of my head as something that would be fun to get into. I haven't fished since I was a kid. I used to fish all the time. We had lakes around our house in Florida, Fort Myers, Florida, and I would catch a lot of fish, but every single time I caught a fish, no matter what it was, I would yell for my dad, and he would have to come from the house, all the way from the house, and walk down to the lake and take the fish off my hook because I would never do it. I don't know how you put up with that.
That's hilarious.
I would have been like, do it. But anyways, yeah, so got back into fishing. I have a friend who has, he's a fishing guru who is helping me out with all the advice. And there's so much to learn and know about fishing.
Oh my gosh.
Just like, it's a different rod for different situations, different reels for different kind of casting, different kind of fish.
Lures,
it's like, I don't understand. Just give me a bobber and let me sit there, But no, that's not how it works.
You could do it that way.
I could, but anyway, so I started fishing. We have a lake by our house that I like to walk to and fish, especially in the mornings. It's just another way to, get away from tech and just be out in nature, which is what I love to do for self-care. And what's funny is when I first started fishing, like 2 weeks ago, right before our beach, right before our beach trip, I started fishing the lake. And first time I went out, I caught 2 fish in like an hour. Second time I went out, I caught 2 fish in under an hour, one of them being a largemouth bass, which is like what I didn't even know existed in that lake. And so I was stoked. Then we went to the beach, went to the pier, and I caught 2 fish, including this, what's it called?
A remora.
A remora,
Yeah.
which they I don't even know how these things.
They're huge.
Well, this was a really big one, apparently, from what I hear. They're not usually that big, but it has this sucker thing on its head that I can't believe is like natural. It feels very much like a person. It just blows my mind. And it literally, like, somebody stuck it to their arm and it stuck to their arm. Like, what they do is they stick to sharks and larger fish and all that stuff. Anyways, caught one of those, caught another fish, and I was like, I am rolling. I am a good fisher. Like, I was born to do this. Fast forward to now, and I've been 4 or 5 more times, including at the beach where I was just constantly fishing from the beach and going to the pier. And then my wife, one day, this sums it all up. So after that, I haven't caught a fish since that day, beginning the first day of our trip at the beach 2 weeks ago, and fished every day we were there. And the last day we were there, I did a lot of fishing. I was like, I am going to catch more fish. And so I spent more than half the day fishing. If we were on the beach, I was fishing. I was always fishing. Didn't catch a thing. We go to the pier. I go with my wife and with her dad. We're using the same exact bait, the same everything. My wife is reeling in fish.
Yep.
Her father-in-law is reeling in fish. He's all like,
dad. Your father-in-law.
Wow, my father-in-law, her dad is reeling in fish left and right. He's just like, man, I'm tired of catching fish. I don't want to catch any more fish. I'm exhausted. And I'm over here just like, what is happening? Like, what changed? And so
the fish could feel your tension.
They could feel my energy? Is that a thing? I
probably.
don't know. I need there to be a fish whisperer, to learn about that.
I warned Chad before we went. My dad has always been like a fish magnet. It's just that way. I mean, I grew up fishing, and so I warned him. Yeah. And sure enough, I mean, I swear, like 8-10 fish in a matter of a couple days. My dad was just like reeling them in. Hilarious.
Anyways, so that's where I'm at with fishing right now. I have a love-hate relationship for it, but I'm gonna keep doing it.
I think it's teaching you patience, which I'm like so
or
on
it's
board
teaching
with.
me stress and anxiety and fear. Just kidding, no fear. Anyways, just anger is what it is. Anger.
There it is.
So yeah, I've been doing that. I love. I've gotten into. I have a motorcycle that I love to ride, and can't do that here during the winter. It's too cold. So I love doing that. I love taking my wife on dates on the motorcycle, which we've made posts about.
You're cute.
I need to be mountain biking. When it's done raining, I know. I mean, you can't mountain bike unless it has not rained for at least 3 days here because the trails are too wet, and that never happens. Like Nashville's become Seattle, apparently. Also, of course, love going to the pool, even though you drag me there because I'm always like, oh, heat, too hot.
But this summer, you've already been like, I really want to go to the pool, which has been actually really nice because usually I'm alone.
Yeah,
usually I go
our
by
pool
myself.
isn't even open right now.
Let's not talk about it.
Because of Corona, and then it has a leak apparently, and it's just all the things. So
come on, HOA, get it together.
What do I pay HOA for? Am I right? Anyways, so Yeah, that's the things I like to do.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't get too hot. I'm good with the pool when
You're
it's
good
not
in
like
shade.
brutally hot.
Yeah.
And right now it's not brutally hot, but it'll get there.
And there's umbrellas.
Yeah. Anyways, so.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so.
Those are fun summer activities.
Yeah. I just need to stay tan. That's all I want to do. Stay tan. We need to have an album about beach songs. You love that.
We can cover some Beach Boy songs. That is nostalgia for me.
That's true. I think mine's just going to do that, actually. I think we've talked about it.
Oh,
Ew. Go straight to your nails.
I want to do that. But actually, that's a really good idea for you guys because y'all are like 4 men.
Vocal group.
It makes sense.
It makes sense.
I'm kind of jelly, but I approve.
All right. Well, coming up, we're going to get into the song. We're going to get into the meaning behind the song Anxious. We're going to first talk about the music side of it.
Yeah.
That's coming up. Hey, welcome back. Finding Us the podcast. All right. Anxious. Track number 4.
I got a lot of good in me to give, but I'm anxious. So many things I know I miss, 'cause I'm anxious. I
wish I could shake this. I don't want to be anxious.
Chad, tell us about the music side of this song.
The music side of this song. Track number 4, Anxious.
He's showing, for those of you
for
who are
those who are
listening,
on audio, I'm over here being weird.
he's showing everyone
Modeling
our album.
So Anxious, track number 4.
Yes.
This is a Sarah Reeve song, which is our second one of hers on the album. She's just come out with a lot of great, meaningful songs lately that we've instantly been like, we got to record this. Don't feel like writing the other one. So, yeah, anxiety, anxious. As soon as I heard this, you were like, I have to record this.
Yep, I found it.
Yeah. So from the music side of things, which I always like to get into before getting into the nitty gritty of what anxiety and anxiousness and anxious in the song mean to us.
Yeah.
Really, so this one, it's one of the few piano ones on the album. I think everything is guitar based, which I wanted. I wanted it to be guitar vibe because most of our stuff is usually piano based, so I wanted to kind of switch that up.
Yeah, that's cool.
But Joey Stamper from, the band Anthem Lights did the piano on this one. Incredible piano player he is. And so, yeah, he did this one for us. And the arranging on this one was... vocal arranging was a challenge. I mean, the bridge was probably the hardest moment to arrange in the album. If you listen to the original song and you hear the bridge, you'll hear why, because it's a lot of, the original, she does a lot. There's obviously a ton of her, back and forth and all this stuff but I wanted to keep it with, just our 2 vocals and not cheat with like 3 or 4 of us in there. So to make that work in that bridge especially took me a very long time to figure out. But I was like, I'm the most pleased with the results of that section than anything else on the album, I think, musically speaking. Whenever we get to that part, I'm just like, yes, Chad, you were such a good arranger. I mean, I tell myself that, so I'm not, anywho. So yeah, that was fun. And, one thing, if you haven't picked up on yet when it comes to our arrangements in general, something that we both bring to the table is the fact that we can both sing really high and we can both sing low. We have quite a range between the 2 of us. And so one thing I try to implement in that is a lot of switching around when it comes to that. A lot of, me going down, me going on top, which, is pretty rare to find a couple duet or whatever, male and female, where the male is ever on top, singing higher than the girl. But that's obviously a thing I bring to the table. So I try to implement that to where we kind of will switch around a lot with that, which makes things with our vocals different, than a lot of male-female singers out there, male female duos or whatever, because of that. So I tried to implement that, and that was a moment in that bridge that really could do that. But yeah, that's about it, I think, for the music side of things.
Cool.
When we come back, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. Be a supporter and become a part of the Finding Us team. Get music videos the day before everyone else, exclusive live streams with my lovely wife and myself, bonus podcast episodes exclusively for you, help us make decisions on song choices, merchandise, all the things. We want you to fully become a part of this journey with us. Go to Finding Us Facebook page and be a supporter today.
So, anxiety. I feel like defining anxiety is really important, just to make things clear. But I think that fear must be defined first before we can really look at anxiety. So,
because anxiety is a part of fear, falls under fear.
Yeah.
Correct?
Well, fear is a part of anxiety. And really, fear is usually the core feeling that is underlying and beneath anxiety. So the clinical definition of fear is that fear is the emotional response to real or perceived imminent threat, whereas anxiety is the anticipation of future threats. So that flight or fight mechanism, or hypervigilance, which is what I like to call it, is activated when the fear or the anxiety response is present. I think that this fear of future threats can be covert and hidden. I know it has been for me. And it can take time to uncover what is really going on, like beneath the surface. I think that there are core messages that we tell ourselves. And I think that it takes a lot of time and sometimes a lot of professional help to really uncover these core fears. And just to give a quick example, like for me, I may have social anxiety, but really there's something going on underneath that. And I get into that in a little bit. Like there's core themes for me. So just a quick knowledge refresher. There are several different types of anxiety. So I just listed a few. There's social anxiety, separation anxiety. There are panic disorders, which are a result of anxiety, and there's generalized anxiety. And those are more, that's my counseling, that's more clinical terms coming out. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
How has anxiety affected you personally?
I think the better question is how it hasn't affected me.
Ooh, answering my question with a question.
Yes.
Okay.
No, for real though. Anxiety has deeply affected me. So firstly, I think it's important just to touch briefly on the current state of our country right now. And so you got Corona, which is panic inducing, anxiety inducing for some.
And just
maybe most
being quarantined. I mean, not being able to go anywhere. How much anxiety is that going to bring up?
Right. And I think that we've talked about before, it heightens feelings, which is okay. And it heightens the reality of the unknown. And it really brings into perspective how, at least for me, how out of control I am of every situation. There's also the man that was killed by a police officer in the rioting that is happening right now. The people in this country are deeply hurting. And it makes me very sad. I have a lot of feelings about it myself. And it can feel very overwhelming to know how to sort through those feelings, the thoughts and the fears that are coming up because of this stuff happening. And it can feel very lonely. So I think that's important to touch on. And we'll get into how to counteract those, those, or how to cope with those. But, for me personally, I don't know what life is like apart from anxiety. It is so deep for me. Anxiety is something that I can remember as a younger girl, experiencing anxiety. And I can remember suffering from social anxiety, separation anxiety, really generalized anxiety about lots of things. And I've had plenty of panic attacks. Anxiety affects me on a daily basis. It's something that I cannot seem to get away from. And I won't go into all of it, but there are reasons that anxiety is higher for other people, trauma being one of them. And of course, like we've spoken about before, like situations and experiences. I mean, it's how we cope. It's how our bodies handle things. And so for me, I'm very hyper vigilant. I used that word earlier, and in all circumstances. I'm often in that hypervigilant state. So social anxiety for me, I can remember which kind of goes hand in hand with separation anxiety, but I can remember being in grade school, specifically middle school and high school. And, I had really, really tough experiences in middle school and high school. I have really terrible memories from that phase of my life. And, I think that those experiences and little T traumas, big T traumas really grew this anxiety. And so I had a really hard time, like really specifically, like football games, like walking in front of a crowd. Oh my gosh. Like my social anxiety, my ears are getting hot right now, just even thinking about it, which is like a sign for me. But, it was really difficult to walk in front of crowds of people, which is so interesting too, because I did show choir and I loved to perform. I think that was my creative side coming out. And so I felt more comfortable there, but just being in social settings and trying to figure out how to fit in and what do I do? How do I get people to like me? That was really, really difficult. Mm-hmm. Separation anxiety. I'm a codependent. So, I've had to work through a lot of separation anxiety from my family, from leaving family of origin. I mean, honestly, and like leaving you, like, and you leaving for shows and things like that. Like I've had to work through a lot of separation anxiety. Generalized anxiety for me, that's about anything. It could be me worrying about being in an accident. I can obsess about, well, if this person does this, or if I do this, or if I drive at this time, I go down the obsessive, rabbit trail. And then panic attacks. Thankfully, I haven't had one in a while, but good Lord, they are awful. I had a lot of panic attacks years ago, like we've discussed, when our marriage was really in the heighten of like a difficult space, and my panic attacks were very, very intense. So I'm curious to know how anxiety has affected you.
First off, it's all really good.
Thanks.
Anxiety for me, really pretty recently, has been something that has started to something to stir out kind of the surface in me. Anxiety is something I've never fully had awareness on or have ever really felt. I'm not one of my go-tos isn't, cause anxiety comes down to not having control of things is a big part of what causes anxiety. And that's just not been something that I have struggled with. I'm usually it is what it is, to a point to where I go to the unhealth on that into the point of, into not letting myself feel it because it is what it is, whatever. And then not giving myself grace and not letting myself feel feelings that I need to feel, So that's been my struggle in the past, but anxiety is something like there's different core feelings that I will feel quite often, sadness, loneliness, sometimes anger, category, and I'm sure there's a couple others that I consistently say. So those are the kind of the core feelings that I struggle with the most in general. But really anxiety, has just started to surface in me more so because I do meditate. I meditate a lot more nowadays because I've just found and learned how important meditation is to your emotional health, and it allows you to feel emotions and take time to feel it. And I remember the first time I was meditating, and just for whatever reason, I wasn't consciously aware of why, but all of a sudden I found myself struggling to breathe. I found myself all of a sudden having a lot of issues catching my breath and breathing. And I was, and then I felt my heart in my chest just start pounding. And I literally had a moment where I was just like, what is going on? Like, I literally was worried. I was like, what is physically going on wrong with me right now? Mm-hmm. And then I remember telling you about it, and you're like, I think that's anxiety. I think you're having a panic attack or something. I'm like, no, and that's happened a couple more times in the middle of meditations, and even though I can't, because your body knows before your brain does. And so my body physically will tell me emotions that are going on in me before my brain can catch up. And so that's what happens. And it has happened in those times where all of a sudden I'm like, I can't really breathe. I'm freaking out. Why am I freaking out? What am I freaking out about? But it is anxiety. Mm-hmm. And then really over the past month, I've really just outside of meditation have felt anxious. And I literally have done check-ins with you saying, I feel super anxious. Like I get into a place where I can't breathe, and my heart's pounding, and I just don't know what to do. And that has for me at surfaced because since we've launched, these two new brands, the podcast, Finding Us. Yeah. It's just the amount for me. It's the amount of work that has now gone into those things. Right. I find myself at a place where I'm like, there are so many things that are incredibly important to my life that I want to do well, Yeah. I mean, recovery, all the areas of work, and there's a lot of branches of my work in by itself. Yeah. Being a good husband, spending time with you, just there's a lot of and other things that are just very important to my life that I want to health. Eating good, health and fitness all those things are so vital. But what I can't seem to do, what I do is there'll be one or two of them that I will go all in on, and then the other things disappear. And then all of a sudden I'll have realization like, oh my gosh, I've been eating like crap over the past couple of weeks. I haven't worked out in a couple of weeks, or man, I haven't made a program call in a week. I haven't gone to a meeting. I haven't been reading. I haven't been meditating, whatever. All of a sudden, or even work, I'll just put that on the back burner and focus on something else for a few days. And then I'll be like, I can't do that. I got to go back because they're all so important in my life. And so what's happened, especially with this newfound stuff that I've added to what responsibilities and is I find myself freaking out about it. I'm just like I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. I can't balance this because I'm either I'll upset you because I've checked out as a husband because I'm somewhere else, or I'm hurting myself in some other way. And that's been a big thing over the past month that I've been struggling with and having to make program calls about and talk out. Because I'm just like, how does I can't balance. Like, how do you balance this stuff? Is it possible? I have enough hours in the day. Then even when I have enough hours in the day, I get so depleted. And what also happens when I get anxious like that is it completely depletes me emotionally. And then I get into a place where I don't want to do anything. I can't do anything. Like, I don't think I can lift my hand to do something. And I'm just like,
it's like you're like paralyzed.
I'm paralyzed because I don't know how else to respond. And because that's a survival mechanism is freezing. And so I'll get into that place from the anxiety. I'll freeze and I'll just be like, I can't do anything because I'm freaking out, you know? And that's a recent thing. Anxiety and being anxious and feeling all that stuff is so recent for me because I've always been like, anxiety, being anxious isn't something I really struggle with. But man, it has as of late, for sure. So.
Can you imagine having like children right now with all that? Like I'm just saying, like, think about the families like we've talked about before with all of the things, right? And Corona.
I can't imagine having kids right now in the middle of all this. Well, and I know so many people that pretty much all of my friends have kids
are somehow managing it. It's amazing. It's like a supernatural. Like, I cannot imagine being a parent And even with everything you just described, like, but I've heard like people say you do what you got to do.
Yeah, I was about to say.
It's another human being that you have to.
You can't put your kids on the back burner.
Right.
It has to always be at the top.
It's crazy.
You know, because they're
Yes.
especially at certain ages, like they are dependent on you.
All that to say, I'm so thankful we don't have kids right now because we're getting to, right? Like, figure out what that looks like, figure out how to manage and balance. And I think that is a very difficult
Well, they also
struggle.
say that you'll never be ready for kids.
I mean, I get that, but that's my gratitude for
If you
today,
can't
is
tell,
not having
I'm
kids.
more pro kids than she is. And so this is a back and forth thing we have where I'm just like,
My gratitude is no children.
they also, say that you'll never be ready. And so if you're waiting to be ready, anyways. Move on.
I'm really glad that you shared that with me about your anxiety. But it makes complete sense. Like everything that you said. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard.
Yeah. I'm stepping into your shoes a little bit. Like, what is this anxious anxiety thing?
Welcome to my life.
In fact, even when we recorded this song, I remember being like, well, this
I remember that.
is going to be like your thing, like a song. We're doing the song because it relates to you.
Mhm.
And I was just adamant about that. And then, man, has
Right.
that shifted.
Wow.
Even when we were like, I was thinking when we do this podcast one day, I'm not going to have anything to talk about. And here I am just yapping away at all the things I
amazing.
felt with anxiety. I want to read from this book that I read a while back.
You have to tell us what it is.
I'm going to. It's from Chip Dodd called The Voice of the Heart. This book revolutionized how I thought about emotions, essentially. And I mean, he's kind of one of the godfathers of the 8 core feelings. And this book goes into depth about that. And I would recommend anybody who's first exploring emotions and whatnot to get into this.
Tell them what page.
This is from, so I'm just going to read from the book. At first
Okay.
I was like, I'm going to kind of talk about stuff from this part of the book, but I'm like, you know what? This is just all too good. I'm just going to read straight from the
I
book.
love it.
We're going to have a little read time.
I
all
love
right?
it.
So this is, so every chapter in this book, he talks about a specific emotion and goes into depth about it. And this is anxiety, which falls under fear. I just wanted to read real quick. Anxiety takes us away from what is true and makes us fretful, distrustful, impulsive, and controlling. In anxiety, we rob ourselves of daily living and its experience. Instead, we try to control our future in order to prevent the reoccurrence of painful past experiences. Anxiety as a solution to fear is self-sufficiency, the refusal to need openly and to face how we are made. We would rather be miserable or make others around us miserable than expose our feelings. We would rather enlist others to quell our anxiety than face our own fears and our need for help. The self-sufficiency we use to stop fear produces more anxiety because in order to control anxiety, we focus on preventing rejection, humiliation, failure, not being acknowledged for our achievements, not performing to someone else's standard, not being loved, and all the things in our future we cannot touch. The solution of control over anxiety will inevitably increase anxiety because we cannot ever acquire enough control. I love that part. The solution of control over anxiety will inevitably increase anxiety because we cannot ever acquire enough control.
That's great.
It's really great. Anxiety misinforms us. It says for us to control when we need to let go. For instance, the first time you tell someone that you love him or her, your heart throbs, your palms may sweat, your throat grows parched, you exhibit physical responses to something entirely emotional and spiritual. This physical response is the emotional and spiritual fear of the rejection of your vulnerability and neediness. It is a battle between fear and anxiety.
Yes.
Anxiety commands that you make yourself invulnerable. Fear requests that you expose vulnerability and neediness to gain healthy control, the appropriate care of your own welfare.
That is so stinking
Boom!
good. I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty amazing. The whole book, like, it's one of those books that I like to highlight the stuff that I like the most.
Yes.
So I like to go back through the book and just kind of read the highlighted stuff.
Yeah.
And I legit just want to highlight
The
whole
entire
page.
book.
Like, it's a battle for me not to just highlight everything.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm just going to have to reread the book.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The other interesting thing about this book is the first time I read it was when very early on in my recovery when I was still in phase 1 of awareness and still letting my ego run the show, where I wasn't fully in. I was just kind of like, I'll do enough to make my wife happy. And I read this book, probably half of it, and I just didn't understand any of it. I was so just...
I thought you only got through like the first chapter and you were like, I'm
maybe.
out.
I mean, I think it was a little more than that, but it wasn't much. And I was just like, this doesn't make any sense to me. And
That's
also,
wild.
I just wasn't buying any of it, you know? And then I have read it since, years later, when I'm now like fully in recovery and fully... for the most part, my ego is not running the show.
For the most part.
And I read it, and every single chapter, I was just like, that's so good. Oh, that's so good. So yeah. Chip
That's
Dodd,
amazing.
Voice of the Heart. First time I've ever read from a book, but I felt like I needed to. It's just really
I'm so glad you liked it. And I feel like that was your first, maybe not, but your first book that you've like read.
It was my first like self-help book.
Yeah.
For sure.
That you've like actually gotten into and completed. Because usually, I mean,
sorry
to be throwing you under a bus. You usually pick up a book and read some of it and you're like, man.
Where's the bus that I should run out in front of? Goodness.
I'm sorry. Anyways. So I kind of want to talk about like specifics about the song.
Yep.
Lyrically, I'm not going to read all the lyrics because you can go listen. But there were a few that I typed out and I really wanted to talk about because they are so meaningful to me. So firstly, I'll say this song is very meaningful to me, and I'm just going to leave it at that. For unspoken reasons, this song goes deep for me. Like, I mean, sincerely, like very deep. It's very touching for several reasons. So the lyrics, when I sing, I think it's in the first verse, second guessing who I really am. Maybe I should give up. Will I ever measure up? I don't think I'm good enough. Yes, queen. Anxiety makes me question pretty much everything about myself. Anxiety, well, I'll get into that, but anxiety is like this little thing on my shoulder, like telling me like, should I do that? How will others perceive that? Is that going to make people like me or hate me? And thankfully in recovery, I don't think that will ever go away, but I'm significantly better about that. Now I'm like, hopefully you like me. If you don't, that's on you, whatever. It is what it is, because I'm going too far into this, but something I heard, which is incredible, whoever it is, that person thinks of me is none of my business. I was like, oh, amen.
And the fact that, I mean, there are going to be people that don't like you. There's nothing you can do about it.
Well, and that's,
for anybody.
Anybody, everybody's like that, right?
And you
It's
cannot.
just so interesting. I think that's my people pleasing coming out, which we could spend all day on that. Yeah. Of course it is.
I mean, I'm with you on that.
Also, the chorus feels like my anthem. It says, I don't want to live my life like this. Anxious. I got a lot of good in me to give, but I'm anxious. So many things I know I miss because I'm anxious. I wish I could shake this. I don't want to be anxious. And really, I mean, yes, practically, there have been things in my life that I have not attended. I have like manipulated my way around to not having to attend certain events because of whatever is insecurity, whatever anxiety is going on in me. But really so that is the thing. But really how this manifests for me is that I'm hijacked and I am not present in moments in life with people around me. I can have such anxiety and anxiety-provoking thoughts that I am no longer present. I'm completely hijacked. I'm in my stinking thinking and I'm gone. And that's sad. I don't want to live my life like that. I want to be present in every experience. I have one life to live. It's very important to me. So anyways, yeah, I struggle with that. And this is a quote by me. I'm like writing this out and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like, I love this.
You just said this is a quote by me.
Yes,
I
it is
love
by me. Anxiety is like pumping the brakes unexpectedly. Even though you want to move forward and keep going, sometimes you just don't know how. It is like anxiety is like you're just going along fine and an anxious thought comes up and it is like my car, if I'm driving, my car has slammed on the brakes completely unexpectedly. My heart wants to move forward, but I'm stuck. It's like I've hit a wall and I don't know how.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, that's the best way I know how to explain it.
Whose quote was that again?
Oh, that's by Fallon Graham.
Oh, okay, cool.
You might know her.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyways.
That's hilarious. So, with that being said, I want to go into some affirmations for anxiety. These are wonderful little nuggets.
Little nugs.
These are sayings.
Every time we say nuggets, which we say about every episode,
Nuggets of knowledge.
I think of like McDonald's chicken McNuggets, and I'm just like,
Do you get hungry? That's hilarious.
Anyways.
Pavlov's, never mind.
Yeah.
you won't know what I'm talking about.
I do actually.
Really? You do? Classical conditioning?
Yeah.
Oh, you're so fancy.
Fancy.
Okay, so seriously. So these are just some suggestions. I'm sure you can look some up, but I've been told this, I've done this, it helps, it works. If you want to even like write these out on like posted sticky notes and put them on your mirror, I have like a vanity and put them around, your mirror just so you can read them. And there's some positive self-talk things that I'll talk about later, but anyways, here we go. Anxiety does not define me. I've survived this before and I will survive this again. I have the ability to cope. It's huge, like getting out of that I'm stuck place that I just talked about. I'm stronger than I think because my higher power strengthens me. That's me. My feelings are allowed to be here. This feeling will pass. Feelings are temporary. They ebb and flow. I am not in any real danger, which is that fight or flight mechanism that tends to activate, like asking yourself, is this a real threat or is this perceived? And last one, I can take this one step at a time. And so there's a quote. It's real good. It's by Joshua. No last name. When your chest aches and your head is swimming with all of your faults and all of your flaws, and you can't seem to find your footing, remember that fear is a liar. That you have been here before and you will breathe again. Remember that you are enough, always enough.
Boom. Need some like epic trailer music behind that. It's awesome.
I just love that quote. It's really encouraging and grounding.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So to close, I'm wondering, do you have five things for coping with anxiety? Give like 5 things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not 6, not 4.
Okay.
5 things that you can give advice on coping with anxiety since you have so much experience around it.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I'm not proud of it, but I'd rather not have anxiety. Okay, so number 1, talk about it with safe people.
I feel like it's always the number 1 solution.
Get out of your own dang head and bring it to light. That has been the biggest thing because I have negative self-talk. I fear judgment. I fear core theme rejection. I can make a call and talk to a safe person and they're like, I totally get it. I felt that too. Or they bring me out of what I call stinking thinking. They bring me out of that. They help me get regrounded. They help me see realistic things. And it's just so important. Just trust me. Just try it. Even if it's like a trial period, do it for a month and just see, like journal how you feel. And then a month later, like you can journal and see the difference in the entries and how you feel. It works. Number 2.
Dos.
And I think you can get on board with this one.
I'm ready.
Routine that involves self-care or nourishment to body and soul is stinking important. Having a routine,
Amen.
even if it you don't have to be perfect, let's not pull out the perfectionism, but even having just a simple routine, a simple layout, pre-plan your week or the day before of what the next day is going to look like, it's really helpful because I have to schedule in self-care time for me. Mm-hmm. And so when that is scheduled, I know it's getting done. Mm-hmm. It is not a question of I'm too busy, I'm too tired, I can't do it. That just keeps the ball rolling of the anxiety.
It a priority.
Yes.
It has to become a priority. And I know there are probably parents out there who is they're not parents. They don't get it. And I get that.
Yeah.
And there's of course instances in that where literally I get that, mm-hmm. but you got to make that as important as, I don't know, having to do something for work, which you would, there's a lot of people that would, they would take time away from kids for work-related things, but they won't take time away from kids for self-care. Right. And that is more important than anything. Your own emotional state is more important than anything else.
Because, and I think a lot of people struggle with self-worth, even though they may not think that they do. Mm-hmm. You are worth it. Mm-hmm. If you even take 15 minutes to sit still, to do a meditation, to do a quick yoga, whatever it is, if you take those 15 minutes, 5 minutes, start small, you guys, that. If you want to make your life, my counselor does this scaling thing and it's brilliant. She's if you want to change this number to 0.5% better, what would you do differently? We're not shooting for the moon here. Let's make a realistic goal. Once a week, 15 minutes to sit in your car with pleasant music or meditation music. To pray if you're a prayer, because what happens is you show up then as a better person, as a more centered, fulfilled person, more serene. Fill in the blank. You're able to then show up when you're okay. And you've decreased your anxiety, you're able to show up differently in your relationships with people at work, with your family, with friends. So that's all.
I instantly think of early in our marriage, you've said you're codependent and times where it was just don't ever leave, don't ever go take time for yourself. You need to be with me. Yeah. And nowadays, fast forward, and it's if I'm in a bad emotional state or whatever, she'll look at me and just be like, do you need to go maybe go fish or, maybe go walk somewhere. She wants me to go and get by my, because I come back such a different person and I can actually connect and be with her.
And that's because I do that. Yeah. I can feel it when it's this is not a good feeling and I need to hang out with friends. I need to go connect be with people. And connect or whatever, make a phone call.
And it is, and this whole thing is, I'm not going to dive too much into this, but this whole thing is so hard to do for us.
It's so
because so many of us have the addiction to staying busy, never stopping, because if you stop, it can be scary to a lot of people. If to stop and allow those things and feelings and to come in can be really scary to a lot of people. And so a lot of us will justify every reason in the book to not take time for yourself and not stop. But it is so vital. Good.
I'll piggyback. It's societal. It's societal pressure. What does society tell you? Your life is purposeful and important if you're the American, if you are working 40 hours a week, which turns into 60, if you have a family, just all the things, right? There is so much societal pressure. And we're all victim to it because I struggle. I can get in thinking I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. And that is hard to battle. That is societal pressure, and that's big. So anyways.
What else you got?
Okay. So number 3.
Dos, tres.
Yes. Mindful things and activities that ground you and keep you integrated. And so I'm going to go into specifics real quick for what I do. So there are natural ways. I could go to a doctor and get medication. If that is what you feel like you need to do, I totally get it. There are clinical, like I said, there are clinical diagnoses of this and it's very serious. And I've chosen to pursue more natural ways of trying to just to manage it. So one of those is essential oils. I love to roll on, bathe in basically, and like diffuse essential oil. So specifically, I love doTERRA brand. Young Living is awesome too. The Adaptive line has been great. I just tried that. I mean, I've been trying that for like a month, and I have to have it on. Like, it's amazing. Balance and Serenity of the doTERRA line is also great. And CBD oil. I hate the way it tastes, but I love my CBD oil. It's been a miracle worker. I was so apprehensive, like had to talk to my counselor about doing it. Like I felt like, because we won't get into that, but it's scary.
It's natural. That's what it is.
Yeah. It's a plant, which is like illegal, and some like weed is illegal. Anyways, and so CBD oil is not weed, people. It's a completely different part of the plant. But yes, it's amazing. What it does for me, it doesn't change who I am as a person. I just feel more grounded, more integrated, and like my body shaking, which is a common physical symptom of anxiety, like that, I just feel more at peace. I feel like I can conquer the day. Like I'm good. Like I got this, and it doesn't make me question. Like it's very settling. I used to have a lot of gastrointestinal issues because of anxiety, and it has really settled me, and it just settles me. I really think it helps me show up as myself, like as the true self that I'm meant to be, which is great. Yoga and meditation. It has been a staple in my routine probably for 6 months, maybe a little more than that. And I love it. So we actually use the same apps. We use Glow, GLO for yoga. They also have meditation in there. We use Headspace for meditation, which is amazing. And I use Abide sometimes, which is a Christian-based meditation. They have sleep stuff on there. They've got like Christian meditations. It reads you scripture, and it's great for me. Prayer and surrender is a big must in my recovery journey. Spending time with God is huge for me, and trying to surrender. It's a process. My stuff is really big. Also, this may sound pretty silly, but holding a cup of warm coffee, warm tea, a warm beverage, that's like extremely grounding for me. Like in a coffee cup, there's just something, and it's sensory. Like there's a whole science behind it, but it really is so grounding for me. Lastly, deep breathing exercises, you can Google them, and EFT tapping is so helpful. EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. It's something that I recently learned, and I feel so dumb doing it, but seriously, like both of them really, really help. And it can even work with like emotions. Please Google it if you're interested. There is stuff everywhere about it. Watch a YouTube video. I mean, it's amazing. So number 4, by the way, if you're still with us, these are ways to cope with anxiety. This is number 4. Rationalize by journaling or talking to self. Really what that is like writing out what my anxiety is telling me. Anxiety makes you want to believe worst case scenarios. And so I try to stay curious about those worst case scenarios. And I ask myself questions such as, would that really be the worst case scenario? Or would I be all right even if this worst case scenario happens? Or are the chances of this really happening reality based? And so most times, as for me, our imagination is creating unrealistic scenarios, and what really happens is not nearly as horrible. And so if I'm able to journal those, or like I said earlier, make a phone call, it's really helpful just to bounce those things off. And usually I get more settled after that. And then number 5 is positive self-talk and coping thoughts. You can write these down on posted stickies as well as little reminders and put them all over your house. So here's just a few. I am always important, no matter what. This is tough, but so am I. This hurts, so I need to be extra kind to myself today. Which that's really what I want to say about that is when you're navigating a difficult situation, whatever it is, ramp up that self-care, people. Like it is so important. Hard stuff, ramp up self-care. Next saying, I've dealt with harder situations and things will get better sooner or later. So this is kind of back to that. There's different seasons of life and they ebb and flow. Lastly, not everything will go my way and I will try to stay flexible.
Love it. Those are all great.
Yeah, they're really helpful.
Good job.
Thanks. You too.
Well, I think we have covered everything
I think so.
around anxiety and the
Yeah.
song Anxious. The video for that will be coming out here in the next few weeks. We are filming that video tomorrow. So thank you guys so much for listening.
Yeah.
We love all of you. I hope that, I hope that you have been able to just hear, you know, the things we're talking about. Because again, we're all only coming from personal experience.
Right.
We've been, through a lot of stuff. And this is all just our own personal experience and all the stuff we've learned about and the growth we've made around it.
Yeah.
So,
And if you have any questions
Yes.
about anything, please email us at findinguspodcast@gmail.com.
findinguspodcast@gmail.com.
Yes.
Thank you all. Love you guys.
Love you guys. Have a great day
This is Finding Us the Podcast.
with Chad and Fallon.